Hey guys, Jess with Peekaboo Wreath. So we're back today. We've done this wreath before in the cotton striped version, but I did get an order in for this basic burlap mesh wreath, and I wanted to show you guys how to do that again here on YouTube. All we need for this is 9 tan color pipe cleaners, which we'll cut in half to make 18. A roll of this basic mesh ribbon with jute from Hobby Lobby. I use a rotary cutter, or you could use a pair of scissors, a wire cutter to cut the pipe cleaners, because please don't use your nice scissors. That metal will get you. And then I have a 14-inch wreath form from the Dollar Tree that I spray painted a tan color. They come and they're dark like this, like a dark, like gardening green color. And I just spray paint it brown, like a nice light tan color, because then you won't be able to see the mesh, the frame through the mesh as much. Okay, so what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna be cutting our pipe cleaners in half. We're gonna need 18. We're gonna assemble this the same way as we do with our normal wreath bases, but instead of cutting the mesh into 30-inch pieces, we're just gonna be cutting them into 20-inch pieces. So that way it's just one roll, 18 20-inch pieces, and it'll give us enough to cover this entire wreath base. I do sell these in my Etsy shop as an option for people that just maybe want a neutral base or a neutral wreath on their door without any ribbons or embellishments or a bow. And then I do sell this wreath with only a bow, like a festive bow that you can replace, you know, when the season's up. So a couple of those options over there in my Etsy shop at Peekaboo Wreaths. And yes, so I first started offering that, yeah, for people that want like a neutral base or a neutral wreath on their door, but also because some people struggle with adding the mesh to their wreaths, and I wanted them to be able to just add their embellishments or their ribbon choices or dress it up however they want to. So we do offer that for those people. So here we go. So we're just attaching. Like I said before, we cut our pipe cleaners in half. So there was 9 and now there's 18. Since we're only adding mesh in and not ribbon and not embellishments, we don't need a full pipe cleaner. The half pipe cleaner, it just fits the bill. I make sure that when I do attach it to this wreath frame, I only twist it one time, or like technically it's like a half time, just enough for it to stay on the wreath form. If you twist it more than once, then you're gonna need more pipe cleaner to attach your mesh. And you know, it's kind of silly to be using a full pipe cleaner for something that a half pipe cleaner can do the job of, and then you're literally using half the supplies that you would be normally with pipe cleaners. So I know that it doesn't seem like a big deal, you know, it's only a few cents here or there probably, but you know, multiply it times, you know, over 500 wreaths that I've made since I've started doing this, and everything adds up. And you want to be able to pass on that savings to your customer and be able to reinvest into your company, or you know, help support your family. So I see ya, I hear ya, and we don't waste over here at Peekaboo Wreaths. Every detail counts. It's all in the details, but in that same mind, we don't want to waste, right? So that's that. Nobody wants to waste money these days or ever. So I'm just adding these last couple. Again, there's just like the other ones, there's 12 on the outside, 6 on the inside. I'm making sure that I'm attaching the 2 rings on the outside, 2 rings on the inside over where they're attached at the rungs here, and then putting 1 on the outside in the middle, just like that. So that's built. 18 ties. Okay, now we're gonna cut our mesh. Like I said before, we're gonna cut 1 full roll. Instead of cutting them at 30 inches, we're cutting them at 20 inches. And what that does is that it doesn't provide as full of a wreath, but what it allows you to be able to keep it like a, not as voluminous, I guess. So we're stretching this out. How I always do it is I cut it on this mat that has the inches on it, and that way I make sure that all of my cuts are nice and uniform. Cut a little bit off the edge to make sure it's not like super scraggly, but you don't want to cut too much, because then you're not going to have enough to cut each piece at 20 inches. All right, so we're going to start cutting those. I make sure that I do kind of count, because we don't want to get towards the end and have a lot, you know, each roll is supposed to be enough to do 20 inches times 18, but sometimes they're a little short, sometimes they're a little long, and you don't want want to run out of pieces and have to cut into a new roll, because I mean, it's kind of annoying. And then you put that roll back in your shelf, and then next time you go to use it, you're like, how much was in there? I don't remember. And then I don't know. Anyways, I don't like putting rolls back into my stash that are already used, because I know I could just write on a bag that I put the mesh in how much is left in it, but I would just rather use up the whole roll and then not have to think about that, not have any stragglers and frayed edges and all the things hanging around. It's just me. Okay, so we're just making sure that we are cutting as straight of a line as possible. We're not, it helps reduce the frays if you cut it with a nice sharp straight line. As you can tell, for a long time I did most of my wreath with the mesh cut at 20 inches. And you can tell, because if you look over here at the 4-inch mark, there's lots of wear there. But you know what, until it cuts through that mat, which hopefully is not today, now that I said that, we're gonna keep on using it, because I mean, it makes no sense to replace something that still has life left into it. So that's what we're doing. Just cutting straight up, getting 18 pieces. As we get closer to towards the end of the roll, they're gonna start being more tightly wound like that. And I tend to use those pieces more on the inside. All right, so that's what we have. So hopefully we have 18 pieces. I said I was gonna count, but I didn't. And we'll do that now, because right after I said all that, I'd hate to have to cut into a new roll. But you know what, if this is our last piece, that's not gonna cut it. So let me count real quick. All right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, yay, 16, 17, 18, we did it! That's very exciting. I mean, doesn't take much apparently around here. All right, so let's get that mesh onto that wreath form. So we're doing it the same way we normally do, except we're not gonna roll as much. Normally we roll it like 3 or 4 times and then gather it up the middle. With this shorter amount, I just roll it maybe once like that and then just gather it up. So it still looks like the bow tie. I still put the cut side down, but the pipe cleaner is smaller, so make sure that you know, giving it 1 or 2 or 3 ties, and then just tuck it underneath. You don't want your customer to get poked. And then you want to pull these out. So even though these cuts are at 20 inches, you still want to make this wreath as full as possible. So you want to make sure that the mesh is not like on top of each other or overlapping each piece. You want to still follow the same type of technique as I do with my 30 inches, where I make sure that I'm like not overlapping the mesh, but kind of butting it up against each other like this. So I'm making it like as full as possible, opening it up those bow ties or those butterflies. And even though this is like a simpler wreath, a lower cost wreath, a lower supply wreath, I still want my customer to know that I'm valuing their order and valuing this wreath, right? You want to put out the very best that you can, even in simpler projects like this. But it's all in the details, you know. People know, right? And you know, maybe this is their way of having a wreath from people, you know, supporting me. And you know, we all have different budgets that we're working with. We all have different tastes. We all have, you know, different things that work for our decor. And I'm thankful. Plus, I have had a couple of customers who have started off with more of a simple wreath like this. Maybe just a plain one, or maybe a set of plain ones. And then, you know, maybe the next one they order has a bow on it. And then, you know, maybe they end up working up to, you know, a larger wreath. You never know, right? But everybody likes to feel valued, right? That's what we're kind of getting down to. I'm gonna treat everybody the same, whether they're buying a $100 wreath or a $55 wreath, you know what I mean? And that's how much this costs with the shipping cost included. All my listings on Etsy include shipping, because Etsy was supposed to have like a tool that would formulate the cost when you put when I pre-filled my zip code to whatever the customer zip code was, and like I would put the dimensions, the weight of the wreath, and it was supposed to like calculate it, and it was never accurate, which was, I think, sending some customers away. And then also, like, I would have to refund some customers a few dollars, which is fine, but it's kind of an extra step. And so I just started putting in where it would say free shipping, but I would just calculate the price of the cost on average, and the shipping box and the shipping materials and all that into the price of the item. So if you buy a wreath from me locally, or if you buy one, if you're local to Sterling Heights, Michigan, or if you buy one from me at a craft show, it will be less than it's listed on Etsy. So if you're local, send me a message before you check out and I'll give you a code. So I'm trying to get at. Because shipping is expensive, and I just got an email yesterday from my shipping company that I use, because we get like discounts because it's like bulk shipping, and it reminded me that seasonal price hikes are coming for shipping. I'm like, I mean, I guess it makes sense from their point of view, right? It gets busier. They want to make sure they pay their employees because they don't want another strike, or, you know, everybody sends a lot of packages around Christmas time, but I always tend to forget about that seasonal price increase, and I never like it. It's always like a bad surprise. But it's okay. It's part of life, and part of selling online is shipping. So I know that was something that was a little bit intimidating to me when I first started making wreaths. I was realizing, like, if I sell them online, I'm gonna have to ship them, and I was nervous because, well, when I first started shipping wreaths, I was paying way too much for shipping. So these wreaths here, this one will ship out in a 22 by 22 by 4 box. So that's a nice size box. The way that shipping prices are calculated is they add the dimensions, so like 22 plus 22 plus 4, right? And then if it's under like a certain number, then the price is not that bad. But if it goes over, which is what my bigger wreaths are, it tends to be more expensive. So for the smaller wreaths like this one, what I'm trying to get at is the smaller wreaths like this one, it's more cost effective to ship them USPS. Well, when I first started shipping wreaths out, I didn't understand that larger wreaths are actually less expensive to ship out if you ship them UPS than USPS. That's just the way it is. And I didn't know that. So I would go ship out a large wreath, which my larger wreath ship in boxes that are 24 by 24 by 6. So that is significantly bigger. And I was paying like over $50 for a shipment. Sometimes it'd be like the same cost as the person paid for the wreath, which was ridiculous. And I just didn't know, right? Like, wreath making is just like life, and you know, you learn as you go sometimes. And it only took me a couple times to be like, I can't keep doing this. Can't keep selling online. I need to figure something out. So I was looking on Facebook and looking on different groups and trying to figure out like what's everybody else doing, because there's no way that everybody's paying $50 for a shipment and still able to stay in business. So I realized that shipping is expensive, but if you have a larger wreath in a larger box, like a 24 by 24 by 6, then you need to ship it on UPS, and you need to get yourself an account on like a website that offers discounts for larger shipping volumes. So I don't ship out a ton each year. I ship out probably on average it's like between 80 and 100 wreaths. So that is a lot to me. I know it's not to some people, but we're not comparing ourselves to others, right? Everybody's doing their own thing. But yes, so I use a website called Pirate Ship, kind of like a pirate's ship, you know, but it's like a plan where, because you're shipping on boxes, and you get a little bit of a discount because they buy their labels like in high quantities from UPS. So Yeah. So if you are a wreath maker or if you're shipping things out, I would suggest using Pirate Ship. And you can print, make your label right from home, print it on your printer, tape it to your box, and then take it right to UPS and drop it off. And it works perfectly. You can put your tracking number into Etsy so your customer has that tracking, and you're good to go. All right, so we are almost done here. We got 2 pieces of mesh to put in, and then we're done. So just making sure that I only roll it maybe once before I gather it up the middle. Because if you roll it too many times, the piece of mesh will be really small, and then you'll go to put it in your wreath and some will be bigger and some will be smaller, and then it won't look uniform in shape and all that stuff. And people kind of know that when they buy burlap mesh wreaths, that it's a natural material. And there's bound to be like a little bit more frays, you know, it kind of looks more, a little bit more rustic, right? So people know based on the picture, you know, what they're getting. And they understand if there's a little bit extra fray because it's a natural material. So, all right, this is my last piece to put on the inside here. And then I'm gonna put I always put a hanger on the back. I'll just take a pipe cleaner and I will hole punch one of my business cards and put it through that pipe cleaner so that when my customer gets it, you know, when they change their wreath out after the season and they're like, where did I buy this again? They can see my website right on the back there. And also if they got any, anything that they want to talk to me about or custom orders or anything like that. All right, so there we go. We're done. It is full. It is about 22 inches. Nice and full still. And we're all done. And just how I attach my wreath hanger is because if I turn this over, I'll look for any crazy frays. I'll kind of push the mesh up a little bit. And then, as I said before, I have one of my business cards. And I just punch a hole in the top. Then I take a pipe cleaner that's the same color as the pipe cleaners I've already used. I take either, so one of these spots that has 2 because it tends to be fuller. So I make that the middle, or the part that I'm gonna hang my hanger from. And I just take it and twist it a couple times. And then, you know, tuck that pipe cleaner so that it's not going to poke your customer's door. And just twist it up here a couple times. On this side too. And then we are all done. So as you can see, I'm kind of finding a few of these, little mesh strings in here. This little burlap string. And there we go. We're done. You see how you can't see the frame through because I painted it the tan color. We're good to go. Thanks so much for hanging out. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Find me over on Facebook too. And I'll talk to you later. Bye. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more tips like these.